Okay, good morning one more time. Welcome again. Here we are for the second session of today's Loop panels. This panel we have entitled it Release Format, and we would like to discuss the different possibilities and options we have nowadays at hand in order to distribute, circulate, exhibit, or screen moving image artworks. In this respect, we have wondered and we have asked ourselves, and that's exactly what we would like to discuss here in this panel, how do all these or those various dissemination strategies can foster a greater symbolic and economic appropriation of these products. At the same hand, we wonder if we still need to think of traditional formats like exhibitions, or if we need to think ahead of those traditional formats, and how all these different formal approaches to the distribution, circulation, and exhibition of moving image art may favor the reception and consumption of these works, of moving image-based works among the audiences. So thank you very much for attending. Thank you to all of our speakers, to Christine Van Assche in the middle, who's going to be the moderator, to Sherry Dobbin at her right, to Marcus Kreiss, to Jaap Guldemond, and to Gryn. Thank you for accepting this invitation and for sharing your thoughts and reflections on these matters.
Thank you.
So I thank you for coming this morning, and I also thank Loop for inviting us. I thank Conrade and Adelina for organizing this roundtable. So I'm Christine Van Assche. I'm a curator at large. I was a curator in the Pompidou Center for a long time and built there a collection of 1,600 works, installation, videotapes, but also website and sound pieces. But they are now in good shape in the Pompidou, and somebody will take care of them. I'm happy now. I'm happy now to work on other projects and be more available for research and exhibition projects. So today we have around the table Jaap Guldemond, who is a colleague from the museum. He's a director of exhibition at the Eye Film Institute in Amsterdam. He was before curator at the Van Hebben Museum and senior curator at the Museum Boijmans from Bunningen. We have also Marcus Kreiss, who is an independent curator and a programmer, and he organized and produced a TV channel called the Souvenirs from Earth. You will have example later, but you see in the hallway his channel is running on loop. Then we will have David Gryn, who is an artist moving image programmer. He's curating projects for cinemas, galleries, but also art fairs. And at the end, we will have Sherry Dobbin, who is Director of Public Art for Times Square Arts. And she's running a program in Times Square every day, I must say. And she's also assistant professor at the NYU Graduate School of Public Service. So as you see, we are very different. We are all running a video program in a different context. And it will be, I think, an interesting panel, and also we will be ready to answer your questions. So in order to reach a new audience or to receive different direct feedback, TV audience was one of the best audience in the 70s and 80s. Nam June Paik was very keen at the TV audience because of his direct global approach. TV was like a global village, a global groove, reaching audience directly from all over the countries, from all over the world. Parallel to TVs, the museum diffusion exists since the 70s with shows and screenings. Multimedia installation could exist only in museum or in a gallery context. Some artists even develop installation to enter in the museum spaces. In terms of galleries, Leo Castelli in New York was one of the first effective galleries in the 60s and 70s to invite artists to produce work for the gallery space, but also for the art world. So he invites famous artists as Bruce Nauman, John Jonas, Kit Saunier. So this is a very interesting experience that we had already in the 60s, 70s. With the museum presentation, we add to the exhibition and collection education. I point this, I think it's important to point this because it's different in other contexts. And then urban space, it's also an important space where video is shown. Already in the 80s, artists like Muntadas in Spain, Jenny Holzer in the States, but also Liz Levine were showing their work in public urban spaces. Also, there is also a field format which is very interesting, which is the DVD publication. Moving image publication start with Super 8 films, VHS tapes, then came the DVDs. Well, in between we had the video disc and all that, but finally we had the DVDs. So copying the book economy, the vinyl strategy and the vinyl strategies, artists with the help of publisher start to publish their own work on DVDs. Unlimited edition for most of them, So you could buy, and you can still buy, and watch home DVDs, which of course is very, very practical. But now, of course, we have a VOD, so a video on demand, where you can also, you know, buy and watch video or digital art home. And finally, internet is a fantastic platform for artists to show their work, reach a big major audience, and receive immediate feedback. We had early in the morning a presentation by Arun Farouki, and it was very interesting because he was already talking about all these formats. He was doing like an introduction to this 12 o'clock talk. Another very interesting artist that also has been thinking about every format is Chris Marker. So, voilà. So he has been producing, creating works for TV, but also for museum, creating some installation, also for cinema theaters, but also he published CD-ROMs and then later DVDs, and then finally he showed his work on internet. So Chris Marker died last year, and when he was 85, he was working for internet. So he put himself some of his work online, but also he did a final website where we could watch a lot of his films and program and videos that had no distributors. So it was like the final, in fact, way to show work. Also, he was kind of interested in the public space, but never did a real projection outdoor. So now we are going to start with the Jaap presentation. Okay. And you
have to help me where it is.
Escape, yeah.
Yes. Is there an image? Yes. Hello, good morning. Thanks for inviting me, Corrado, Adeline, and Christine, of course. We agreed that we just, for panelists, just briefly introduce ourselves because we're from quite different backgrounds, probably all share the same ideas. Can also be the opposite. I'm probably the most sort of old-fashioned curator, coming from the visual art field. So my background is, as Christine already mentions a little bit, sort of the curator and chief curator in the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art, like the Van Abbe Museum and the Museum Boijmans van Beuningen and the Kleur-Müller in Amsterdam, in which, especially in the Van Abbe Museum, I've been working a lot with so-called video artists. This was halfway the 90s when people like Douglas Gordon and Pierre Huyck and Elise Attila all started their career, and so they often had one of the first exhibitions in our museum, so I'm sort of used to work with artists using moving images, but I've been doing a lot of other stuff. But now I work in this Film Museum, and which is, in a way, it's a brand new museum. I can show you a picture. Yeah, this is the museum. It really looks like a maquette, but it's real. Even the other one is even more maquette. I checked if it was not the wrong photograph, but this is the real building. It's 2 years old, and it's based on the former Dutch Cinematheek, like the Dutch National Film Museum. So we have a collection of 40,000 films dating back from really 1895 until nowadays. But we try, because we sort of started again, we were merging with some other institutions, and then they asked me to come over to help them a little bit. So we tried to reposition the museum a little bit in a different way as the normal cinematheques in the world, because most of the cinematheques are really sort of focusing not solely but merely on feature films, on the film industry. We really try to consider film more as a form of art. So of course we also take into account feature films, but our focus is much more on film as an art form, of course being influenced by a lot of other art forms, but also itself influencing other forms of art. This really looks like a maquette, but I checked with my assistant. But it's real. It's an amazing building. It's built by two Austrian architects, De Lugen and Meisel, and I think it's a beautiful building. It's difficult in its use, but it also offers you a lot, because actually, even in the exhibition space, more or less all the walls are not 90 degrees. So they're like this, or like this, or like this, or they start like this and they all go another way. We call it a challenge. So this was from the side. And actually it's in Amsterdam. It looks really, if it's far away from everything, but it's really across the river. I know some people probably know Amsterdam. You have the central station, and it's really in front of that. You can already see it from the railway station. This is the atrium, or the arena as we call it. This is beautiful because it's empty now. We have a restaurant, whatever there, but it's still quite beautiful. Okay, so one of the exhibitions that I organized, this was actually the opening exhibition, was the Found Footage Cinema Exposed, and this tells a little bit what we're trying to do, because for me, I really like to try to make a bridge, or to gap the bridge between the film artist and the visual artist working with film. And of course, in both worlds, there are a lot of artists, filmmakers working with found footage, so working with existing film material. And to me, it made sense to try to merge these into a sort of international group show. And what we, for example, did, this is a beautiful, it's not so clear, the beautiful installation of Giannichia and Ricci Lucchi, which are really from the film world. So they're based in Italy, and they work with found footage, but they normally produce films for a single screen, but they just started to work on more installation-wise. So that was part of the exhibition, but also people like David Klaarbout or Henri Salah were there. We see Douglas Gordon, Matthias Müller, and this is also Matthias Müller, Christophe Giraud there. So what we tried to do was really to start this museum by showing that there is not such a clear distinction between the film artist and the visual artists. But of course, we're still a film museum. There's also once every year we do this sort of big shows on the big authors of feature film, like the Stanley Kubrick show. which for me are actually the most difficult ones to make. Actually, this we took over from Frankfurt. Because in a way it's difficult if you're a feature filmmaker. Of course, your films or the things that make you interesting are made to be seen with a fixed seating in a cinema. So what would you add to it? So I'm still struggling with it. So the only thing what I try is always to make it a little bit more cinematographic, because often this kind of show end up with a lot of fetish objects, and I try to really show the audience that it's more that you first have the impact of the moving image, and then probably the other objects are starting to be interesting. With the end, I really love to make these shows as well, but it's still a format what I'm sort of working on, because I think there has to be different formats which probably are more interesting. Then another show what we made was the expanded cinema, and of course this was really the 3 artists who are using this cinematic grammar, like all the feature films, but in the end not trying to make a feature film. So this is Yang Fudong, sorry. I'm just one behind, sorry. This is Yang Fudong work. Of course also really using a studio, using like a huge crew, using delicate lighting, using actors. So it's really using all the same grammar as a feature film, but in the end making this kind of installations. Another artist is Fiona Tan, and a third one is Isaac Julian, who was here last year. And also I think he's interesting because he's showing he really started his career as a filmmaker, as a feature filmmaker, even winning prizes at Cannes, but he all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but he discovered the possibilities of what can be done if you have a 3-dimensional museum space instead of this space. And I think he's really making very complex and beautiful montages in space of these works. This is the same work but different, and this is actually work of Fiona Tan, which we could already also see yesterday on the Godiva. Was that or Godi? Where? Golia, sorry, the Golia, yeah. This just to give you an idea of the space. It's quite a weird space. It's about 1,300 square meters, and it's actually one open space. There's only one on the top has fixed walls. The rest is open. So if we try to get rid of the sound leak or whatever, we have to make walls and so on. This is another thing what I'm really into to make is try to pay attention to also to the history of experimental cinema. For example, Oskar Fischinger, who's to my idea one of the most interesting early filmmakers from the 20s, who was one of the first to try to make abstract cinema. And also with this kind of film artists, how do you expose these works? Because these were definitely meant to be shown in a cinema theater, but in the end they're never shown because it's too difficult to get an audience for it. So I really was trying to find a way that makes sense to show it in a museum space. And for example, here you see a lot of, because you can give extra context, you can add process material, and at the same time you have these images. And of course, because they're always sound, what I try to do is that I had the sound jump from one screen to the other. So there was always an image, but one was moving and another was still. So you still you can contextualize the work and still having no problems with the sound leak and so else. Another one. And it's funny because for a lot of people it really works like paintings in a way. And of course it was very based on the whole idea of Kandinsky. For him it was, okay, Kandinsky is trying to make sort of paintings about music, and I want to make, Fischinger had to make a moving image about painting actually. This is another. Another example is an exhibition I made on a Dutch documentary filmmaker, Johan van der Keuken, which is also, of course, difficult how to expose this work because they are really made for television, most of them. So I tried to find a way to make it interesting to put it in an exhibition space. Here you see a little bit the space. He's also in Holland well known as a photographer, so I was sort of working on the idea of editing, of montage, which is sort of the main issues in his work. And so I tried to find fragments in his work which was telling a lot about montage, but also showing series of photographs which were also working with the montage. Then this is Peter Forgach. He's again someone more from the film world actually, and for us was interesting because we actually invited him to work with our own archive, and we have a huge, as I told you, we have 40,000 films, so it's a huge archive, and we asked him to work with sort of home videos from Indonesia, which was a former colony of the Holland, and he made, out of this work, he made a beautiful installation, which you see some images that I'm almost finished. Whoops, this is another one. And then, also interesting nowadays, I made an exhibition on the Quay brothers, which was actually a show. Ron Magliocci here, who was the first to start making a beautiful exhibition at the MoMA with the Quays, but unfortunately was not able to travel, so I made my own version. And here in Barcelona is another version, which of course is with two other artists. And this is again interesting because I try to make a show on not only on the Quay brothers but also on or about their universum, because I think the sources they use are at least as interesting as their own work. So I really try to make a sort of mix of their sources, their own work, works of other animation films, objects, and so on. And of course, what is always a problem if you try to make this kind of exhibition is not only the sound, but of course also the light. So there has to be light on the objects, but it has to be as dark as possible on the screens. But in the end, works quite well. And then the last one is a cinema remake, in which again I thought it's interesting to show that there's a lot of artists, visual artists mainly, who are sort of making use of the legacy of cinema. So the one that you see here is Cory Archangel, sorry, American artist who started with the film of Dennis Hopper, Colors, but then made it into sort of moving abstract color field painting. Slater Bradley, also in one of the galleries I read. Anna Torfs and Provo Gregory Crutzen and Chris Chong-Hui. Okay, so just to give you an idea what I'm doing.
Thank you, Jaap.
Welcome.
I went to see several of Jaap's shows in that museum, and I must say that it's very special, you know, to introduce cinema in that very exhibitional way, yeah. But very successful. So now David Gryn can introduce his own work.
Can I just swap with you?
Yeah, we swap?
Yeah, let's swap. Okay.
Can I take one of you?
You can take one of mine.
Sorry. Be close.
It will be on display. I'll just introduce what I do before I show you a clip of a trailer. My name's David Gryn. I have a company, Artprojx, and I'd say over the last 15 years I've worked to show artists moving image in the context of the cinema primarily. So I came to that position sort of by default, but I came to it probably as someone who goes around art museums and galleries for many years before. I was an artist once, and I came to that position because I never seemed to watch artists film in galleries and museums. I found it always very difficult to view. I'm very distracted, I'm very flighty, I don't have much attention span. So it came about that I had access to a cinema in central London, and I started showing some artists and films about artists, and suddenly I had big audiences coming. I was always interested in audience and developing audience and marketing to an art world and beyond the art world. And I've always sort of believed that people want to sit in cinemas and watch what they're given, so I guess I try to use the means of the cinema as a place that people are willing to sit through artists' films like they might Hollywood films and other kinds of film. And I guess I've been developing that process for the last 10, 12 years, and then did projects with galleries internationally, artists, and some art fairs like Frieze in London, the Armory Show, and a few other art fairs at other parts of the world. I've been coming to Loop in the last 7, 8 years, loving what was going on here and the people here and being here. And really just generally engaging with trying to develop audiences and marketing into the art world and beyond. And I was in an Armory show in New York doing a big project with about 100 films in a week during the Armory show and Volta there about 5, 6 years ago. And I had a meeting with the people who work with Art Basel, and they came to me and said, they didn't actually say what I'm about to say, but they kind of, the subtext is, basically, the galleries aren't bringing films to art fairs because they're not selling this stuff. And therefore, there's an area of the art world that is being unnurtured, even though the audiences are huge. There is, it's a one-stop shop. There's now 30 art fairs in this city, and they said, would you help develop a process with us to start working with film? And they had been doing films in the past, and some brilliant projects. I remember 10 years ago seeing something, Chrissy Isles, who's the film curator at Whitney, did a brilliant project in Miami. It's just that the galleries and the art fair struggle with the technology, struggle with the time it takes, struggle with the fact that they invest all this energy and no one's either there to look at it or there wanting to buy it. So there's a whole kind of a lot of conundrums there. So I guess my role, and it has always been that way, is really a way of trying to engage, market, promote, develop an audience for this material. I'm not involved in it really from a commodity point of view, but what I'm trying to do is encourage galleries at the art fair to show film. So I don't see myself as a curator. I work with curators. They call me a curator, so the word is now attached to me. So it's another word if you're trying to have like that easy language when people say, what do you do? So I curate for Art Basel in Miami Beach, but when I'm doing things on my own, I usually call myself a marketer, an enabler, a collaborator, and I like working with other people. That's what I do to try and make projects happen. I work on my own, so I can often cut through bureaucracies in organizations. Doesn't mean I always succeed, but at least that's my intention, to try and make it happen. It's trying to make it happen, for instance, when most of the galleries I'm talking to really are trying to think how they're going to recoup their costs by selling art. They're not generally thinking about these films or sound projects that may not make money for them directly at the fair. So in the first year of working with Art Basel, they said you will maybe get 5 applications, which was a little bit weird. And I thought, okay, I'm going to work hard on this. So I got 100 that year. And the applications is basically people submitting films, galleries, but trying to find galleries who will think creatively is also a challenge, because a lot of people who work in galleries are brilliant, but their job sometimes to sell the work. They're not thinking about what they can show that may just be an experience for an audience. And also, well, I'll actually show you what I've, so last year we did a trailer in Miami, and I'll talk a bit more after it. This is just a trailer. It's films selected. Hopefully just give you a flavour of some of the things I do. Okay, it's no sound. That's always a good thing. Is there sound with this or not? The whole logic was sound. It doesn't matter if there isn't. Is there sound? Yeah. Shall I try again or not? I don't mind. It's actually not a big deal. I'll talk. It's fine.
You sing.
I'll sing.
Yes, you sing. Yes.
No, why don't you talk?
We don't need to fiddle around because we haven't got very long. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how good it was. It was brilliant. My presentation was great. You'll all love it. I'm amazing. You'll love me in the future. But now I'm just basically. Actually, I don't really want to worry. Is it going to? It should. Okay. Just to give context. I project in Miami on the New World Symphony Center wall, which is a 7,000 square foot screen, and there's a brilliant sound system. So I often think about sound, so that's why you're hearing sound here, I hope. And if you don't, just shoot me. Okay,
you have to sing.
the film I think is showing somewhere in Barcelona. Forget it, really. It's good. We're over this one. Anyway, you get an idea of, okay, I'll give you a clip here. Okay. Logic being is that I'm going to stop fairly soon so we can actually end up having a conversation. My logic is working now. I work with Miami. I think about audience. I work with a general public audience in the city, not just an art fair audience. So I'm selecting films that hopefully engage not just the people who already know about this stuff, but also people who might be, you know, just general public in a city. And very interesting doing that because you start having a very different reaction to works. And I have to sometimes think about what I select that engages all people. So I think about sound, music, and process. I can't really do very long-winded films like I talk. What, you think it's working sound? I might be over sound.
Otherwise,
okay, let's just see, just for fun. And if it isn't fun anymore, we can.
So thank you, David. Thank you for your presentation. Now we are going to ask Marcus Kreiss to talk about his experience.
I'll leave it there. It's a thing. Okay, so I'll quickly introduce myself. Marcus Kreiss. I started as an artist. I was a painter, and I also went to film school in Rome, Cinecittà. So for my early artistic life, I was always like in between painting, art, and movie making. And in the moment you have technically the possibility to produce films by yourself with a Mac and digital camera, I started to make films on a concept I call video painting. That means the basic idea was everybody has huge big screens, and what you have on that is normal television programming, and people from television are not artists. So I asked myself the question, what can look really good on the screen in terms of thinking like a painter? And in my opinion, until the late 50s, visual input for the people was mainly in control of the artists. Artists were maybe photographers or painters or even movie makers, but they were artists behind the images the people consume. And then slowly it got into business, and now we are in a situation where finally what the most people are consuming as images is made by the industry, and is made mainly to manipulate people to get somewhere. I mean, advertisement, or to use brain time and then advertise between bits of film. So my idea was making video as a painter, And I started video paintings, pieces, and I started to sell them normally on the art market. But very soon I realized that I will never get real budget together, because I was from the movie part. I knew that I wanted to use actors, cameraman, all the things the industry has, and this is expensive. This is not like making a painting. That means you need the money before you start to work. So I had to find a solution for finding another economy to create the pieces I had in mind. And well, slowly I came to this possibility to put this on television. So there was no television channel around that was specializing on this kind of arty stuff. And but fortunately there was one program in the mid-90s in the local TV channel in Germany, late night, put together by a label for electronic music. And they had a program that was quite close to what I had in mind. It was avant-garde music clips, because very often the musicians did also films. And it was very much what I had in mind. And I provided 2 hours to this program, and it went on for 7 years. And it had huge public, like every night, 60,000 people, enormous. It was on satellite. And it was late. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning. And then they cut the program because it was not local enough or something like that. And so, oh yeah, we have some streaming problems here. I can put another one thing. So finally, I had to resolve myself to create it all by myself, and I started a TV channel. And I didn't do nothing. I didn't know nothing about the business of TV or the technology or any kind of business. I was just a painter. I knew hardly what it was to sell maybe a painting or a video, but television that's the real business. That's the real life world. So I had to study it, and I had to get comfortable with that. But somebody had to do it. It was not around, and obviously somebody had to eventually start or try to start a TV channel. So I asked for a license, and I got a license, and I got the first network in Germany. And then slowly we had another network joining in, and now we have around 7 networks in France, which means 90% of French cable can get our channel for free. It's free to air. We have roughly half of Germany, and we just started on 2 cable networks in Austria. And the channel has been around for 7 years, and we have a growing number of viewers. It's around 750,000 visits a month, and we have average duration of viewing of 15 minutes. That's a lot for a smaller TV channel. That means that lots of people use the channel like I intended in the beginning. That means they put it on in the morning and they switch it off in the evening. They have it like a painting on the wall in their maybe in their office or maybe in their living room. And well, that was the vision of the TV channel. So this is a channel live. You can get it over the internet, sfe.tv. It's not the HD version we have on French cable, but it gives you an idea of how it looks like. We have also the channel in the lounge here in one of the boxes. And so what is the experience when you watch the channel? Mainly it's like MTV. It's a new film every 7 minutes, and there's no real order. So you have a surprise every 7 minutes. I don't even know what's next. You can eventually look it up, but it's not so important for us. The whole experience is to discover something. The whole sense of the channel today is it's a big showcase for mainly video art, but it can also be photography. We have contemporary dance, that's a big thing. There can be performance art, and there can also be live performance. So recently, this year, we did broadcast a performance from the Pompidou, 2 weeks, 2 hours a day. And I think nobody did this before. We have special content for special events. So like recently we had Artprojx collaboration. So the art fair gave us a road to the galleries. The galleries submitted films. And we had 50 films from the galleries on air, on the channel for 4 days as a loop. And the channel was at the fair in a very nice setup in a movie bar where everybody could watch the proposition. So yeah, the basic idea was, for me in the beginning, was to have some economy that will get me production costs covered. And then slowly it evolved, because in the beginning everybody was telling me, you never find enough content for 24 hours a day. Today I think one of the main reasons why historically we need this channel is, as you might all know, we have enormous amounts of material outside. The content is not the problem. We have lots of artists working on very interesting stuff. We have institutions. So I think what the channel can do, and no institutions can, because we're talking about time-based art, is to give you an idea as a video art lover what is outside, what can be done as content. And if you have a show, and if you have 10 videos that last, that's very nice that it's coming out, is our godfather Namjoon Paik. So if you have a show and you have 10 videos which last, every video has half an hour, you really need time. And as David explained, if you go around galleries and museum, you have, me too, I have this attention span problem. I can't sit there like for hours watching videos. Getting these videos in your home makes it whole different. You can really, you can continue your life, you can eventually have guests, and it really enters your life. It's not you go outside and have to spend time. And so this is a different thing, and you can have a very intimate relationship with the films that you're screening. And it was the time making the channel, other aspects came up. I think one aspect is a very political one. As we are an artist-run channel, I'm not the only one, also our curator, our main curator, pardon? Pardon? Oh, okay. I kept it now. And so it's an artist-run channel, and artists using our channel find a public far bigger than they would find in the gallery, and they find a public also that is maybe not even used to art, because since everybody can get the channel immediately, easily via internet or via normal cable TV, we are having a far larger public, and we are getting more people interested into video art every day, which is useful for everybody in the industry, for the collectors, for the galleries, and for the institutions.
So thank you, Marcus. It's of course a very interesting and different experience that Marcus is doing on his own initiative. But now we can listen to Sherry Dobbin, who is curating and programming Times Square. We have a very large panel, as you notice, of a way to show digital art. We are not out of ideas.
It worked before, but now? Okay, yeah. So I'm representing New York, so I'm going to try and speak as quickly as possible.
No.
I'm Sherry Dobbin, and my background has covered many art forms, but I started in performance, and I also started in improvisational performance and performance in the public space. So as a result of that, I'm always very interested in audience, and because I'm doing public art, it's very important that the relationship of the work to the audience is crucial. So our program covers more than just the one program, Midnight Moment, which happens on the huge electronic billboards. But I just wanted to share with you, we wanted to take this space where over 400,000 people come a day and really use it as an opportunity to take some risk, to work with contemporary artists, and to experiment. So for a public art program to be able to commit to words like experiment and contemporary artists is quite unusual, but it's important to us that we take advantage of that. We have an incredibly diverse audience. It's the best sort of general public you ever want to encounter. Very international as well, and every demographic you can think of, from age and income bracket. So if you're an artist who's really interested in, the general public, it's a great place to do it. The other thing is I've put up some of what are the sort of values, the criteria, or the elements that we look at with any type of work. We're very interested in the collaborative nature. That means not just with one another, but with the space. How you respond to it and think about your work in that context, what you might be trying to do to push your own practice as an artist, how it has a conversation with either the audience or the space, and how you make that kind of apparent. So there are three main platforms that we use. One of them is the electronic billboards. These are all individually owned and operated. I deal with over 37 individuals to program just that one program, Midnight Moment. But we also use a lot of video work in using different district venues. So you'll see the image right here is Marco Brambia's three-dimensional projection into a pool that is in a hotel lobby. But then we also work with the big wide open space and sometimes think about how the video can interact with live performance. So here we're using the same newspaper kiosks as a part of a work that we did with Academy Ruszu from Poland for part of Performa's festival. Egil, you may recognize your work. Some of the ways that I've worked with video before, I used to run the Watermill Center, Robert Wilson Center, so projection on the large outdoor space, or it might be many different ways that artists are using projection, either as an integral element to a performance piece, or as a backdrop, or creating another environment outside, inside, doesn't matter. Or some of the work that I did when I was working in the UK, even with regeneration efforts, and we took a historic Martello Tower and actually projected that work and created an outdoor cinema there. Again, not all of these are necessarily brand new concepts, but just a variety of thinking about it. We're tight on time. I'm not going to show you all these videos, but this is Marco Brambia's projection, three-dimensional projection into a pool. A piece we just did, a performance piece called Dream of the Red Chamber, a performance for a sleeping audience, in which beds were actually set up as part of the performance space. And the objective was how one could actually experience a sense of performance by yourself going in and out of consciousness. The video there very integral and playing a part with the live audience. With Jay Scheib, who's a theater director who uses video all the time in his performance work, he talked to me once about what would happen if I took the video that I shoot during the live performance and people only saw the video. So we actually created a real-time feature film. It was being edited by the shooting process in like a 5-second delay and broadcast into the United States' largest grossing movie theater. So we took experimental work and actually had it broadcast and created a live performance of a feature film in that very commercial context. Most of you are probably interested then in this program, Midnight Moment. So every single night for 3 minutes right before midnight, 47 screens over a 5-block area actually show an artist film. So we worked with Portland Green on one of our projects in the past. And the idea is that it actually is like a man-made canyon. And so it's not just a viewing of a work, it is how a work becomes an installation. And you'll see with Robert Wilson's video portraits, we are also playing with what content fit on which screen, which placement it might have. Then I'll even go to the level of detail sometimes of understanding what the context is of that sign usually and who we put up there. So you'll see that we had, oh my God, Zhang Huan's piece actually up on the CNN screen because he has so much political commentary. There's a huge screen that's American Eagle, and they're usually showing like 14-year-old models in little underwear. So we put up Suzushi Hanayagi's portrait, which is, she was 78 at the time and going through Alzheimer's.